Greetings to all Senzo Meyiwa Voice supporters. My name is Hubert Maphumolo, a partner at Senzo Meyiwa Voice channel. Please bear with us as we share with you the following audios, which are interviews and discussions. As we have said before, that the Senzo Meyiwa channel will be a voice of the voiceless to share stories of victims of crime and those that would have been failed by the corrupt criminal justice system of South Africa. Mr. Meyiwa, Senzo Meyiwa, does not have a device at the moment to do recordings and videos. His device has been broken. So please bear with us as we are preparing to build this channel. We kindly request that you assist with donations so we can get him a decent device that will allow him to partake fully in producing good content for our followers. This will also assist in getting him a Wi-Fi router so he's able to remain connected to the internet.
So the truth will reveal you now.
Good afternoon, Mr. Myles Bhudu. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, and yourself?
Fine, thank you. Mr. Bhudu, do you consent that I record this short interview for the purpose of uploading it on our YouTube channel, the Senzo Meyiwa Voice?
No, it's fine. We can record it.
Thank you. Mr. Myles Bhudu, would you kindly give us a brief introduction or background of your organization? I know that you are a very well-known person who's been looking after the inmates and protecting them and their rights in prison for the longest of time. But just for the interest of those who might not know about your organization, can you please just give us a short background of what is it about and what you do?
Well, the South African Prisoners Organization for Human Rights was established at Modderby Prison. The former Far East Rand is now called a Kuruleng region. I was one of the founder members who was arrested in 1986 and sentenced to 6.5 years for forced entry and theft at a popular household furniture warehouse. We were 4 of us, and each and every one managed to go and store his loot. And I also stored my loot, but it took me almost 4 days to get a buyer. But that time it was too late because the police were informed about this loot and this biggest forced entry into a furniture warehouse in Nigel, the countryside on the lakeside where I was born, also on the former Far East Rand. That's how I got arrested. I got charged. I was prosecuted, and I refused to identify my co-accused, and I had to take the rap, and that's why the sentence was so severe, because I was told by the magistrate long before there was this plea bargaining thing that if you sing like a canary, you assist the investigating officers, you cooperate, you'll be put under a certain category called a plea bargain. By that time, there was no such a thing, but I refused, and I had to go and pay my dues for the crime I've committed. And yes, this is where the organization started in 1988 when we met with Mkonto Sizwe cadres that were the very last regiment before the democratization process, who encouraged us as political detainees to start a structure so that we could interfere, interrupt, and intercept gangsters that were every week fighting and killing and injuring one another at the instigation of the Afrikaner Tronkbewaarder, the warders, that were very much instrumental in letting common law prisoners injure one another. So they then said, look guys, we have to do something about this. And we didn't know where to start. And then they gave us the ANC constitution to tamper with it, to plagiarize it, to cut and paste it, to have at least a document that we could use to engage correctional officers when we started with the campaigns and the awareness of the South African Prisoners Organization for Human Rights. And in order for us to reward them for assisting us putting together a structure that, it was very difficult to let this thing work, but it ultimately ended up working because the gangsters bought into the South African Prisoners Organization for Human Rights, and we reward them by providing them with a blueprint, jailbreak map, which they executed in the most professional way that remain up to today the biggest peaceful, colorful, and entertaining jailbreak that was ever committed by the last regiment of the Mkhonto Wesizwe prison in Modabi. 91, I got released, and I'm still fighting. Now I'm ended up fighting a lonely war, a lonely struggle, a legitimate, very isolated struggle, fighting for the rights of sentenced and unsentenced prisoners. After I was released from 1991, it's almost 35 years, and it's almost 40-something years in the struggle, fighting for the rights of sentenced and unsentenced prisoners. And everything has fallen on deaf ears. And I am now a veteran, aged, a senior citizen, which is called a prisoners' rights activist, including the rights of victims of crime and violence.
Wow, that's a very impressive history, I must say. I came across your work a couple of years ago. I was running an NGO around between 2001 and 2005, and I got a call from Durban. One of the inmates, in fact, he was a detainee. He got shot on both legs, and they were refusing to take him to hospital. Somebody called me, and I then got your number. I called you, and in less than a day, actually a few hours, they had to rush me to hospital after I had called you. So as much as this, what you say, reaches on deaf ears in terms of authorities, but you are a voice to be reckoned with. When you speak, people do listen and they do shake because, you know your story, you know your rights, you know the rights of your prisoners, of the inmates, so to say. Now, I understand there's a case that you're actually working on the death of a certain young lady. Will you kindly give us a background as to what happened to this lady and how did she die within the correctional facility?
A 31-year-old woman. She was kept in the section of maximum long-term female prisons. We call them for the past 2 years in order to conscientize them, to indoctrinate them. We call sentenced and unsentenced prisoners revolutionaries. But let us not go there. We won't have enough time to explain why we as an organization decided to label them revolutionaries and try to use it as a sort of an indoctrination so you get in the mind of a criminal, a murderer, a child molester, a robber, and he's been called a revolutionary behind bars with the intention to change that mindset. Let's not go there, but someday we will talk about it. It is our own little contribution we are making from where I am sitting. This young lady, she was only 31 years old, and she pleased, she died a lonely death where she was, let me use the term, electrocuted or through shocking by electrical wires, because she was bullied by these long-term female offenders, and she was used as a mule to say, look, we have information that there will be a strip search. Here are our cell phones. We want you to hide them And how far you're going to hide them, we don't care. But if they find them in your possession, you must never, ever say where you got these phones from, because after that, we will deal with you. You know, and this is a young first-time offender, a person who we are told should have never been sent to prison. And if she was sent to prison, she was supposed to be kept at a section where first-time offenders, young ladies, are kept there with the intention that the department execute its mandate, and that is to educate, to train, to give skills with the intention to rehabilitate and then reintegrate a person who paid his dues or her dues as a law-abiding, a useful and a productive citizen. She died because she was electrocuted. She refused to sing like a canary. She fell ill. This thing happened in July. She fell ill, and she was medically neglected since July this year. She was taken to the hospital for the first time, and she was not even admitted at Barak Hospital.
Pardon me to interject there, Mr. Bhudu. You didn't get to tell us who tortured her exactly. I think we missed that one. I just want clarity whether it was inmates or officials.
These are officials that were busy with the strip search and found her with the phones, and they isolated her and took her to what is called the Waarheid Kamer, the truth room. And she was tortured like we used to be tortured those days by the murder and robbery unit when you were arrested for an armed robbery, with electric wires. She then fell ill, and her organs gave in as time went on since July. The first time they took her to hospital, she was not admitted. She was given pain pills, and a few weeks thereafter, they had to carry her out herself with a stretcher, rush her to Barakwanat Hospital, and unfortunately, a few days thereafter, she succumbed. Yes.
That's very sad. That is very sad. Because I heard you were busy assisting the family with regards to funeral arrangements and requesting for people to assist where they can. What are the difficulties there? What are the challenges regarding the preparations for her burial?
Well, the families are poor, like all of us, coming from a disadvantaged background, being impoverished, and the Department of Correctional Services don't want to have anything to also assist in sending her in a dignified manner to a very last place. They never do that, even though we as an organization remind to them. Well, we thought because the management now is being led by an Afrikaner from the Freedom Front, Mr. Groenewald, he was going to have a different approach. Van Bukom, he's an Afrikaner, he's from the Vryheidsfront, and his mentality and his thinking machinery is far more different than ours for the wrong or the right reason. And I get the impression that they have already influenced him. They have maybe bullied him, or they have witchcraft him, and he didn't even respond or acknowledge receipt of our request that the Department of Correctional Services must, for the first time in the history of this department, come to the party, meet the bereaved family, apologize publicly, and make commitment what is that they were going to do to assist into a dignified funeral, and thereafter say to the bereaved family, now you guys can go and let the law take its course and sue the living hell out of this department. And that is in fact what we expected this new Afrikaner minister should have done, but I don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime.
But I heard you were to assist them to open a case. Has that been done already? Well,
I have just received a WhatsApp. I haven't read it, but I have been talking with them since last week. They went today to collect the remains of the late Ayanda, Jandisa, Mkhize from the state mortuary and transfer it to a private mortuary. They did that today, and that is what they told us to say, guys, let's first get the remains to a private mortuary, and then thereafter we could arrange which police station which we must approach to open a criminal matter. And we have identified Mondio police station because it is the nearest and it falls within the jurisdiction of Johannesburg prison. Now, the WhatsApp I've received, I haven't read it. Maybe it then says, well, tomorrow we can go. And I have identified the point of departure, and that is Southgate Mall. But at the time I left it in their discretion when we will meet. I've also made a public announcement to Umkhonto Sizwe Party because we have aligned ourselves with them. Those are arrangements that still needs to be finalized. But from a distance, we have identified Umkhonto Sizwe as a political party that will also come to the party to deal with all the other shenanigans, including, forming a sort of a relationship with the South African Prisoners Organization for Human Rights, so that we start talking about fighting crime, combating crime, preventing crime, and the causes of crime and violence. Maybe someday the crime rate in this country will drop to a manageable level where it can be managed, because you will never ever eradicate crime for once and for always in a country that is a neo-capitalist state.
I hear. It's so disturbing to find that with the officials still use apartheid kind of torture to get what they would call a truth out of inmates. What's your take in the new dispensation with regard to the transformation in the correctional services? It's disturbing that people are still being tortured. We hear there's in the Senzo Meyiwa case, the accused number 3, if I'm not mistaken, is in solitary confinement for the past 4 years. Is that constitutional? What do you have to say as one who represents the rights of prisoners for one to be in solitary confinement for 4 years?
I'm so long in these activities. I've been around this block more than twice. And I speak with authority without any fear of contradiction, without any fear of favor, or without any fear of reparations for reprisals. You see, the Department of Correctional Services has been left behind, because whoever end up in this institution, it doesn't matter what the allegations are, what crime you have allegedly committed, what crimes you have committed. The moment you end up at the police station, let alone being sentenced and go to prison for quite some time, people have forgotten about this institution. People don't want to have anything to do with this institution called Correctional Services. There is absolutely no sympathy, because the mentality is whoever is in prison in South Africa is a rapist, is a pedophile, is a robber, is a murderer, and there's no mercy and sympathy. Even though we tried, but we could have never done the right thing, because we've been written off, we've been left in the cold, we've been condemned, we've been bad-mouthed, we have been stabbed in the back, there's been a lot of gossiping, and we are left hanging, and we are running this organization with our cell phones, because that is the only way how we could contact and have contact with our members, followers, supporters, and sympathizers. It is sad. The only time when people wake up, it's when you get arrested yourself, it's when you get charged and you are sent to those hellholes, or somebody very close to you. It's only then you realize that, gee whiz, is it true that these so-called correctional facilities are places where people are sent there to become worse criminals? Some of them don't even come alive out of that institutions, come out with body bags. But then that becomes too little, too late. It is sad. You see, previously, when the apartheid regime was in charge of these institutions, the Afrikaners never treated their prisoners the way our people are treating us 30 years down the line. Yeah, and what is really disturbing and painful, you've got a notorious propagandistic spin doctor who has now, I think for 20 years, he's a spin doctor of this department. And they've never changed him because he knows how to spin. And he has got so much power that when he talks and responds to matters that is as straightforward as this one, where a murder was committed, when he responds publicly, he speaks and he talks and responds as if he is the minister, the deputy minister, as if he is the national commissioner, or sometimes talk as if he is the president of this country, or he is the president of the most powerful country in the world, responding to decadence, things that has happened. There is proof that she was electrocuted. There is proof that because of that kind of torture, she ended up losing her life. And he says, no, it's not true. She was a sickly woman. She was suffering from some uncurable disease, and one can just imagine and speculate what is that he wanted to say. And he gets away with it because the outside, they don't want to hear anything that comes out of prison of a prisoner, whether she is the first time, he is the first time, whether you were arrested and charged and prosecuted for attempting to steal fat cakes and mincemeat at the Sunday school picnic.
That's terrible. It's so sad that such things happen in the so-called democracy that we're in right now, apartheid style of torture and stuff like that. But regarding the authorities, Mr. Bhudu, not long ago, you were confronted by Mrs. Steffo and myself when we were concerned about his depression. And I remember you forwarded a voice note that went to the Minister of Correctional Service, and we thought because Mr. Steffo, he's been involved in high-profile matters, probably they would do something about it. They did nothing. In fact, a few days after that voice note you sent, he was actually allegedly assaulted by the officials. So clearly, the Correctional Service, they are running that institution, I don't know, like a Guantanamo Bay of some sort, where they're treating people in a very inhumane way. With regard to this accused number 3, who's in consolatory confinement for the past 4 years, it doesn't make sense. They can't just run that institution as if they are running I don't know what. So, Mr. Bhudu, thank you for your time. Is there anything that you want to say in closing this interview?
Well, we've also approached the Honorable Bishop Mboro to come on board because he had also his challenges and his shenanigans a few days ago when he was arrested. And he shows some interest to assist, in terms of a dignified burial and assist maybe that we get the best lawyers in the country so that the Department of Correctional Services is sued. But no, even if the case is going to be won, those murderers are not going to get their pensions deducted for any compensation that must be paid. And if the pressure doesn't go on forever, they will be transferred to work at other prisons and not
where they're going to continue the same thing.
You understand? So that is why we are going to open a case. We have the approach of controversies to accompany us because we have called the media to also accompany us to the nearest police station to go and open this case and keep this thing alive until such time the president of this country intervenes.
Yeah, that's necessary action, absolutely.
And this thing that they must keep on running for the past 30 years, keep on administrating the Department of Correctional Services as if it is a private members club, a family business, a Afrikaner volksstijkie, a Bantu stand, or a Khoi NSN. Royal Parliament House must come to an end, and we want to use this opportunity, unfortunately, we will have to use it on the corpse of a very young woman that lost her life, her only life, because of what is happening, and God went sometimes unreported, unspoken about, and unwritten about. But this time, bafike kwangqangeke.
Yes, I hear you, Mr. Bhudu. No, it's so unfortunate, and I would think the problem is not only with the Correctional Service, but our entire government. I feel like we're just being, governed by a bunch of gangsters who do their own things, and they don't give a damn about society. They just do whatever they want to do, and we just have to live with it. And they are in for a big surprise, because this time we're not going to let them get away with all this kind of nonsense of treating our people in an inhuman manner, and a young lady having to die for just stealing fake cooks and mincemeat and being tortured to death. That is just uncalled for. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Bhudu.
Yeah, the minister should have by now apologized nationally, but he didn't. He should have by now come to the party, and we now regard him as an accomplice, and he's complacent for his silence, because his silence is screaming deafening.
Of course he will not, because they will be afraid that if they apologize, then they're concerned that the Correctional Service is liable, and therefore they are avoiding lawsuits. They think they're smart. They always have ways of dodging and avoiding accountability. But good luck in the fight. You have our support, and may the young lady rest in peace, and may those criminals who did that to her get their due.
Thank you very much, my brother. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bless you, my brother.
Bye.
Bye.